So beginning with essay 4, you're going to have to come up with your own topic. So far with essays 1 through 3, I've given you a question or a few research questions for you to research on your own. So for essay 4, that's not quite the case. I've given you a pretty broad subject area, but I haven't given you the question. So this quick PowerPoint is to show you how to do that. So let's assume that you've received an example or an essay prompt, an example I have provided you with is to write a 5-page persuasive essay about a contemporary social issue that has been discussed in class and in our textbook. This isn't the exact prompt, obviously. Your prompt is going to be on technology for essay 4, but this is just an example. So one kind of note that you should keep in mind is that the prompt here implies that you already have some knowledge about the topic that you're working with, that you've already spent a good amount of time in class talking about the material, or at least have read many of the textbook assignments. That's really the first step before you can begin to come up with a topic. The process is essentially the same as it is for any essay, except for this time you don't really have the exact research questions. So you would employ a series of different pre-writing strategies like free writing or clustering or listing or brainstorming. From your brainstorming, you would come up with a research question. From there, you'd try to answer that research question with a thesis statement. So let's assume you have lists of some topics that refer to the prompt. I've given you a few here: capital punishment, euthanasia, decriminalization of drugs, etc. So what you'd want to do is begin to come up with questions that are based on the topics you've devised. So, for instance, should capital punishment be abolished in the United States? Or should terminally ill people under the age of 18 have the right to opt for euthanasia? Or can the decriminalization of drugs help to curb addiction and crime in the US? Next thing you want to do is to create a working thesis statement that responds to the research question. So a basic formula, we've talked about this before, is to create a thesis statement is to come up with your topic, your position, and the reasons why. So for ours, we're going to answer the capital punishment question. So capital punishment is the topic. The position is should remain legal, and the reasons are because it brings closure to families and friends of the victim, restores justice, and acts as a deterrent to violent crime. So we'll go through three example questions with thesis statements. The first, should terminally ill people under the age of 18 have the right to opt for euthanasia? A working thesis statement could be, although it's not a pleasant thought, people under the age of 18 can and do become terminally ill and should have the right to a peaceful and painless death. Now, you might not know the answer to the question that you're posing initially. That's where you have to do your research. So sometimes you need to spend some time with your research question before you can even begin thinking about a thesis statement. Another one, should capital punishment be abolished in the United States? While capital punishment may seem like a good solution for responding to society's most heinous acts, in reality it's an ineffective means for deterring crime. It's exorbitantly expensive and it is applied unequally. So again, research question and thesis. Finally, can the decriminalization of drugs help to curb addiction and crime? Working thesis, even though the decriminalization of drugs is highly counterintuitive, counterintuitive approach to curbing drug-related crime and addiction has been shown to produce good results in the countries that have tried it. So again, you go from brainstorming or some form of pre-writing to devising a research question to answering your research question. So as you consider your research question and begin to play around with thesis statements, your question will narrow as you become more knowledgeable about your topic.